It was a tranquil Friday night in Helmshore when Sadie Hartley found herself home alone, winding down after a long day. She had just finished a phone call, unaware that it would be the last conversation she ever had. Minutes later, a horrific event unfolded. When the police arrived, they were met with a scene that shocked even the most seasoned officers. There were no signs of forced entry, no warnings, just Sadie and a crime that defied explanation. Sadie Hartley was born in 1955 in Newark-on-Trent, the third of 7 siblings, raised in a modest yet close-knit household. Her father worked long hours as a truck driver while her mother managed the home. From a young age, Sadie distinguished herself with her drive, intelligence, and deep compassion. She earned a biology degree from the University of Brighton and built a successful career in the pharmaceutical industry before launching her own thriving company. In 1981, she married Jerry Hartley, and together they had 2 children, Harry and Charlotte. Those who knew her described her as balanced and methodical, a person who led with calm assurance. Whether at work or home, she was a peacemaker, preferring dialogue over confrontation. An outdoor enthusiast, she loved horse riding and was remembered by her colleagues as a boss who valued partnership over hierarchy. Despite her professional success, Sadie's personal life faced challenges, culminating in a divorce from Jerry. At the time of the shocking crime, she was in a relationship with Ian Johnston, a former firefighter and part-time ski instructor. Sadie had settled into a beautiful home in Helmshore, Lancaster, in the affluent Sambank Cottages area, a peaceful neighborhood lined with million-pound homes. On January 15, 2016, concern grew among her colleagues when Sadie failed to show up for work. Her unanswered calls were out of character, prompting an alarm to be raised and police dispatched to her home. Upon arrival, officers peered through the window and saw a woman lying motionless in a pool of blood. They forced the door open and discovered Sadie Hartley's lifeless body. What followed was described by investigators as one of the most brutal crime scenes they had ever encountered. Sadie had been stabbed over 40 times, suffering catastrophic injuries to her spine, right eye, lungs, and spleen. Even more chilling, a shard from a stun gun was found lodged in the collar of her blouse. The evidence indicated she had been incapacitated before the attack began, and tragically, it is believed she remained conscious yet paralyzed during the initial assault. There were no signs of forced entry. Sadie likely opened the door herself, unknowingly allowing in the person who would take her life. The attack appeared to have commenced immediately after the door opened. Investigators pinpointed the time of her last known communication to 7:30 p.m. when she spoke to a colleague on the phone shortly before her killer arrived. While forensic teams collected evidence inside the house, officers canvassed the neighborhood. Helmshore was a secure and upscale community with nearly every home equipped with surveillance cameras. As they reviewed hours of CCTV footage, investigators noticed something unusual: a blue Renault Clio seen driving through the area at suspicious times, with no resident claiming ownership of such a vehicle. Just 4 minutes after the blue Renault Clio was spotted near Sadie Hartley's home, another figure appeared on camera, a person walking alone down the same street. The timing of these events raised immediate red flags. Detectives suspected that the driver of the Clio was scouting the area, confirming Sadie's presence at home and relaying that information to the person on foot. At the time of the attack, Sadie was entirely alone. Her partner, Ian Johnston, was in Switzerland, skiing and teaching as part of his winter work. Sadie had planned to join him later in the week after completing some pressing work commitments. Ian, known for his active and adventurous lifestyle, had previously been married, but his past relationships had ended in divorce. He and Sadie first met in 2002, and their relationship, initially casual, became more serious by 2010, when they moved in together. When police interviewed Ian, he provided crucial context and details. He revealed that in August 2015, just months before the murder, There had been a break-in at the home he shared with Sadie, leaving her shaken and increasingly anxious about being alone. Investigators considered whether this incident could be linked to her eventual death. Had the same person returned, or was the previous break-in merely a failed attempt? Ian then disclosed something that shifted the investigation's focus. Just days before her murder, Sadie had confided in him about a deeply unsettling experience. A woman had shown up at her door wearing a baseball cap, handing her a bouquet of cheap flowers purchased for just a few pounds. The encounter felt off, and Sadie was immediately suspicious, recalling the earlier break-in and sensing that someone was watching her. The gift was not thoughtful, it was a message. Ian mentioned a name that would soon dominate the investigation: Sarah Williams. Sarah was not a stranger to the couple. She had once been romantically involved with Ian during a brief separation from Sadie. At the time, Ian was working as a ski instructor at the Chill Factory, an indoor ski slope near Manchester, where Sarah, a younger woman of 34, was a regular visitor. However, their relationship quickly soured due to Sarah's possessive and controlling behavior. When Ian reconciled with Sadie, Sarah responded by sending a vicious letter to Sadie, revealing intimate details of her relationship with Ian, clearly intended to sabotage the couple. Instead of tearing them apart, the stunt backfired, pushing Ian and Sadie closer together. Despite their history, Ian admitted to continuing to text Sarah. On one occasion, they even stayed at the same hotel during separate vacations, exchanging flirtatious messages while Sadie was with him. Sarah remained a presence in Ian's life, both personally and professionally, as she worked for a travel company specializing in ski trips, sharing an office complex with the Chill Factory. While their encounters may have seemed casual, detectives began to view them as something far more calculated. Sarah's personal life raised further questions. She was in a long-term relationship with a 75-year-old man who was notably married. Beneath her glamorous exterior, investigators detected signs of instability and obsession. With this new information, detectives turned their attention to Sarah's digital footprint, securing her phone records and tracing her movements in the days leading up to Sadie's murder. A disturbing trail of evidence began to surface, pointing directly to Sarah Williams. Although she lived in Chester, nearly an hour's drive from Helmshore, her mobile phone had logged in Helmshore on the same day Sadie received the unsettling bouquet of flowers. This was a quiet but damning clue. Police theorized that Sarah had delivered the flowers herself, not as a peace offering, but as a reconnaissance mission to confirm Sadie's presence at home. The cheap and impersonal flowers were merely a pretext, a test run for a plan already in motion. Just 2 days into the investigation, police made their move. In the middle of the night, they entered Sarah Williams' home and arrested her. The timing was risky. Acting too soon could mean releasing her without sufficient evidence, but investigators were confident. Sarah, reportedly stunned by the sudden intrusion, was taken into custody. During questioning, Sarah denied everything, claiming she had been at home in Chester on the evening of the murder, unwell and resting. At around 6 p.m., she texted her lover, David Hardwick, stating that she planned to have tea and go to bed early. It was a carefully constructed alibi, but one that would soon unravel. A search of Sarah's home revealed signs of recent, almost obsessive cleaning, with the lingering smell of bleach. Yet, beneath the surface, the truth clung to the walls. Inside the bathtub, forensic teams detected faint traces of blood, which lab tests confirmed belonged to Sadie Hartley. Hidden beneath Sarah's pillow was something even more revealing, an old Nokia mobile phone. It wasn't her main device, making it even more suspicious. Call records showed she had used it on the day of the murder. One call to her workplace in the morning and another disturbingly placed to Sadie's business line. This burner phone had previously been used to contact people selling second-hand vehicles. Investigators traced the last outgoing call to a man who had sold Sarah a blue Renault Clio, which she had paid for in cash. The pieces were coming together. Detectives had the make and model of the vehicle and the seller's confirmation, but the car had seemingly vanished. License plate recognition systems had picked up nothing, until one sharp-eyed officer noticed something peculiar in a surveillance photo. A blue Renault Clio was spotted, but the plate didn't match. Upon closer inspection, it became clear that Sarah had altered the license plate, a simple switch turning a 3 into an 8, enough to evade automated searches, but not enough to escape detection. The altered vehicle was eventually found abandoned in a parking lot 56 miles from Sadie's home, and police believed it held critical forensic evidence inside. Throughout continued interrogation, Sarah remained eerily composed, calm, poised, and without a trace of remorse. Investigators discovered an entire archive of personal notes on her phone, obsessive thoughts, romantic fantasies, and writings about Ian Johnston that revealed a disturbing fixation. She had masked it well, but beneath the surface lay an obsession spiraling into something far darker. Then came the most chilling discovery: how Sarah had found out where Sadie lived. Back in early December 2015, all three, Sadie, Ian, and Sarah, had attended a holiday party at the Chill Factory. On that very evening, while laughter and celebration filled the room, Sarah discreetly attached a GPS tracker to the underside of Ian's car. Over the following weeks, she would return repeatedly to recharge the device, tracking Ian's every move with surgical precision. The implications were devastating. Sarah had not only stalked Sadie, but had mapped out the logistics of murder in real time. Even more haunting, by the time of that cheerful holiday gathering, Sarah had already decided that Sadie would die. Unbeknownst to her, Sadie had spent that evening standing just feet away from her future killer, sharing the same room, breathing the same air, smiling at the same jokes. Initially, detectives believed Sarah Williams had personally delivered the bouquet of cheap flowers to Sadie's doorstep. However, when they confirmed that the two women had crossed paths in the past, they realized that Sadie might have recognized Sarah if she had appeared in person. This meant there had to be someone else, a willing accomplice. Witnesses recalled seeing a silver car circling the area on the day the flowers were delivered, occupied by a bald man and a woman wearing a baseball cap. As police began reviewing Sarah's inner circle, one officer recognized a car matching that description parked in the driveway of Katrina Walsh. Katrina, 56, suffered from alopecia and always wore a baseball cap to cover her hair loss. She worked as a horse riding instructor and had known Sarah since her teenage years, developing an unwavering loyalty toward her friend. Detectives soon determined that Katrina Walsh had been the one to deliver the flowers to Sadie Hartley on January 7th. Phone signal data placed her in Helmshore that day, and CCTV footage later confirmed both Sarah and Katrina entering a supermarket and leaving with a bouquet of flowers matching Sadie's description. The evidence was overwhelming, and Katrina was arrested. From the beginning, Katrina claimed she suffered from serious memory issues, insisting that unless she wrote something down, she would forget it within 3 days. She kept detailed diaries to compensate for her memory lapses, but those diaries were about to become central to the case. During questioning, Katrina was conflicted. On one hand, she told police she believed Sarah had committed a horrific act, something her journal seemed to hint at. On the other, she claimed she couldn't remember her own role. Investigators, however, found her memory loss suspicious, conveniently selective, and seemingly scripted. Meanwhile, the case against Sarah was tightening. Contrary to her claims of being bedridden with illness on the night of the murder, surveillance footage showed her leaving home with Katrina, walking toward a car. A shoe print found at the crime scene matched boots recovered from Sarah's home. The most disturbing piece of evidence revealed that the two women had traveled to Germany together to purchase a stun gun. In Katrina's home, police found a stack of her handwritten diaries. Inside were chilling entries that indicated Sadie's murder had been in the planning stages for 1.5 years. One note from August 2014 made it painfully clear. Katrina had written that Sarah would kill Sadie and expressed her excitement at being involved. Despite later claiming that she thought it was all a game, the journals betrayed her. The tone, the details, the anticipation. They didn't speak of confusion. They spoke of complicity. Hoping for leniency, Katrina eventually led police to the location where they had buried the murder weapons, including the now broken stun gun, a blood-stained knife, and the keys to the Renault Clio. No longer could Katrina portray herself as a forgetful bystander. Back at the station, Sarah was confronted with the overwhelming evidence and informed that Katrina had been arrested. For the first time since her detainment, her confidence cracked, her composure slipped, and she looked rattled. From that moment on, she refused to speak. The picture that emerged of Sarah Williams was deeply unsettling. Raised as an only child in a comfortable home in Binghamton, Murrayside, Sarah had once been the victim of a disturbing alleged abduction at age 13, a claim some questioned. At 17, she began a relationship with 57-year-old millionaire David Hardwick, a married man who became her longtime benefactor, financing her lifestyle while remaining with his wife, Rowena. Throughout her adult life, Sarah sought control in her relationships, drawn to unavailable men, particularly those who were married. She often attempted to sabotage their marriages, writing letters to wives, stalking homes, and even fabricating pregnancies. When asked to sever her connection to Hardwick, she refused, finding the financial security too enticing. She once described herself in a text as the little psychopath. At trial, both Sarah and Katrina pleaded not guilty. The proceedings stretched over 6 weeks, detailing a murder that had been calculated with chilling precision. In the end, the jury saw through the lies. Sarah Williams was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 30 years, while Katrina Walsh received 25 years for her role in planning and aiding the crime. The murder of Sadie Hartley sent shockwaves through the UK, not just for its violence, but for the depth of premeditation, manipulation, and betrayal involved. Sadie, a kind, intelligent, and deeply loved woman, was taken not by a random act of violence, but by individuals who plotted her death over the course of 18 months. She was a mother, a friend, a professional, someone whose life held meaning far beyond the jealousies of others. Her death was senseless, her murder cold-blooded. Yet her legacy remains one of strength, compassion, and justice finally served. Justice may have come too late for Sadie Hartley, but it did come. The darkness that took her life could not extinguish the light she brought to those around her. Don't miss out. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations.